De mare.
Oh, Great Spirit, we thank you for this moment in time. We thank you for these beautiful trees and this wonderful sunshine. Such a pleasant day. We thank you for our breath. We thank you for our blood running warm in our bodies. We thank you for the good sisterhood that we have together. We thank you for our children and our parents, our cousins and our aunties and uncles. We thank you for the neighborhoods that we came up in that nurtured us. We thank you for dreams. We thank you for moonlight, starlight, sunshine. We thank you for our bones and sinew, for our heartbeat. We thank you that you've made us to be able to make decisions that are in our best interest that move us forward. We thank you for this self-healing machine that you put our spirit and our mind and heart inside of. We thank you for the opportunity to praise you and praise creation and to become one with creation. We thank you for all the many gifts you've given us, the things that we wanted and the things we didn't even know that we needed. You gave it to us anyway because you're a mighty, wonderful mother. We cannot thank you enough for all that you have done and all that you will do. So we just say at this moment, Yakoki.
Yakoki. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Grandmother Walks on Water.
I am Brenda.
I'm Rabia. So, we're on here to talk about spirit, and in this time of madness and restructuring and balance, which the prophecies have talked about, at least the native, and I'm sure every other prophecy speaks of this time, and we signed up for it. A lot of people are wondering why they did, but nonetheless, we're here. So we're going to talk about grandmother wisdom. We're going to talk about the link between as Africa's children, but we also are have Native American blood or Turtle Island blood or however you want to call it, but we have two cultures and two or three bloodlines or more running through our bodies. And so we bring the wisdom of not just Africa, but of Turtle Island as well. We bring the medicine from our journeys of self-discovery, going to Africa, going to Guatemala, going to Bolivia, going to other places, connecting with our relatives and the women all over. And so we'll share some of those insights, some of the ways that we can help to navigate these times. And with that, I will release to whoever wants to speak first.
You may go, my sister, Wapagia.
Oh. Well, grandmother wisdom is the wisdom of having had experienced life. My daughter was living in California and she came back to the land where I am and asked me if I could keep her girls for a week while she got reestablished on the East Coast. I said, sure. When she came to pick the girls up, she called me the next day and said, Mommy, thank you so much. The girls are so grounded. I didn't know how to do that. We were drowning, trying to figure it out. And then you just stepped in and did it. This is grandmother wisdom. We've already raised our children. The mistakes that our children will make as parents, we've already made them. We've already figured out a few things. And like, I'm not their mother, so I don't need to have them feel like I'm agreeing with them or not wanting them to be upset with my decision. I'm the grandmother, so whatever I say goes. I don't care how you feel about it. Therefore, I'm grounding you to the earth in an order. All right, there's a hierarchy in nature. Nature itself is mathematically perfect, as my son says. So when you get to be a grandmother, you've already seen many sunsets and sunrises. You've seen many things that work and many things that don't work. And you have made some choices that will support you in your elder years to have a little less aggravation and problems.
One hopes.
Grandmother wisdom allows you to take the lessons from the past and give yourself the wisdom of calm, of peace. My daughter asked me to, my other daughter asked me to write um, 20 things that I live by. And most of them had to do with relax, take time to drink tea, eat off pretty china, um, take time to be grateful during the day. But the number one thing that's most important to me is stop bullshit before it gets started. Don't even let that get started. Just put stop to it immediately. Therefore, you're going to have a lot more time to relax and drink tea.
What I'd like to add to what my sister just said is it's important that we stay open to learning. I mean, we've gathered so much wisdom over the years, and the time that we're living in today, at some point, it felt like I was starting back at zero. My gosh, I have all of these tools to uplift me and all of that, but there was so much coming at the collective that it forces one to go deeper within and to truly be open to how spirit is guiding us out of the darkness. And it may not be the ways that we typically use. Sometimes we're creating new openings, new portals, or what have you. But I think it's important that we stay open.
Sure.
And I believe that we're being stretched to the point where we are to envision bigger, deeper, wider. Because I wonder, why does it feel like I'm at a standstill? And it occurred to me the other day that something is trying to be revealed. And I've been in a habitual way of thinking and visioning for myself, but some new energy is trying to come in and expand through myself, through the collective, so that we can not only get through the times that we're living in, but to build the world the way that we envision it.
Rabia, we don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I think part of that is that from the collective wisdom of grandmothers present, grandmothers past, grandmothers, aunts, daughters, sisters, women's knowledge and women's work has always been connected to the land, to water, to Mother Earth, to, you know, to the universe. To women tend to keep their hands and feet on the ground, but they also look to the sky. They also acknowledge Grandmother Moon and the stars, and they acknowledge the importance of water and trees. And it is so much a part of our makeup and who we are. And we look at all of the different ways that nature presents herself and how Mother has provided so much. I think part of grandmother wisdom is to, now we've gone through the teenage angst years and, you know, marriage and kids, and now with having grandkids and all of that, is to come to the space where we are those elders that we said, oh, we must respect the elders and their wisdom and their knowledge and listen to what they have to say. And we were always referencing that in terms of other people. Now we're sitting in that chair, we're sitting on the ground, and we're looking at what's going on, and we're hearing the cries from the younger ones, and we're seeing the rage and the anger and all of the things that are going on right now, the dynamics of how this shift is taking place. And I think that I can speak for myself, I can't speak for everybody else, but it comes to a space where you start to really go in and start to look at, what is it that I came here for? Wanting to vibrate on a higher level, understanding that it's about vibration, it's about tone, it's about alchemy and magic, which is plant medicine. It's about looking. I'm so blessed to be at the Patuxent River right now, living and having this awesome body of water to connect with every day, and to watch her cycles. As any given time of the day, she can shift in so many ways. There's so many different currents going in different directions at the same time. Or, you know, watching the cycle of the osprey and the herons and all of these different parts of our relation, and understanding from them too, the beavers and all of them. We're not different from them. We're not superior to them. Coming to that final understanding that we all have a place on this planet. We're all equally responsible for it, that they don't take more than they need. They do what they need to do. Yeah, sure, we have birds that fish and eat the fish eat other things, and it's a cycle of life that, but it's one that's in balance. And it's not one that, you know, man made overlordship of the earth and all that lives on it, of the women, of the trees, of the water, of the air. I mean, Mother put all of this stuff here for us for free. It became commoditized, and then it became a weapon. And it's, when you sit with nature and you look around you at all of the food that freely grows, that doesn't, you know, and the medicine and all of those things, that she didn't charge us for these things. She put it here so her children could survive, but to respect it and to respect each other. And I think that, you know, because we're kind of shell shocked. I think that's what it is. We have gotten past the point where we have looked at these things, that we walk in nature, that we take time to just stand still and observe and let the wind blow past you and clean you off. All of those things that are tools that we have that women traditionally use, a lot of us have forgotten about that. And the most important thing, I think, is the clarity that we're not better, we're not higher, we're not more worthy than anything else that grows on this planet or in space or anywhere else, because Mother did this. We did not do this. And it's funny, Wapaja and I had a conversation earlier. I'd like her to reiterate for everybody, because I was like, wait a minute, that makes too much sense about sugar and breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah. I was telling Rabia that I was doing some work with the tuning force with a teacher, and she said that she noticed when she's doing work with women who are baby boomers, that they will have some pains in their knees that are uh, going back to their time of birth. And she said that at the time that the baby boomers were born, the doctors, the male doctors, were telling women to only breastfeed their children for 6 months and then give them pet milk and Karo syrup.
Mm.
So she was saying that the baby boomers, a lot of them have a really bad sweet tooth that they can't control
Mhm. It's
because
true.
they were given, glucose at such an early age when they shouldn't have been given that. They were given cow milk and thick glucose to satiate themselves. So the baby boomers, when we need to feel comfort, sugar is where we go to.
Mhm.
And that would create a lot of health trouble for us, sugar diabetes and all manner of problems,
For real.
fibromyalgia. Yeah, and so our mothers were instructed by male doctors um, to do something that was should not have been done.
It's
Because I breastfed
unnatural.
my children for, 2 and 3 years each, however they, wanted to breastfeed. I never weaned them, so however long they wanted to nurse, I just let them. And that's what was supposed to happen to us. But as Rabia said, the industrial machine got in the way, and they didn't allow our mothers to labor as long as they should have. They got in there and gave them C sections and got the babies out according to their own schedule. And so there were some things that we needed to have happen to us at birth that weren't able to happen because the machine got in the way. So for me, raising my children, having children, I did realize that something had happened. I didn't know it the way I was just, um, taught the other day about just what the particulars are. But I knew that I should do something different. I wanted my children to have a different birth to see how their adult relationships with themselves and nature and their spirit could be different, than mine being forced bottle fed. And so that is the wisdom of the grandmother also to look at the past and see things that have happened and then see how we can change it. How can we make this thing be okay, better? How can we shave the edges off of it and make it a little smoother? Because even with my children, my grandchildren, I mean, they came to stay with me, and the first thing I did was have them sleep outside. And they were like, "No, there's bugs out here, Mimi. We don't want to sleep outside." No, you have to get close to the earth. We're gonna get in the tent and sleep. And whatever owl hooting and whatever there's going out, crickets, you're gonna get used to that because that is nature, and you're part of nature. And so, as a grandmother, you know, the more we can instruct the younger ones to live as natural a life as possible, that is really our job. My daughter, had struggled and fought with uterine cancer, and when she went after 6 weeks for them to check it, they put irradiated sugar in her body because the sugar will go to where any cancer cells are and attach itself to that. So this sugar thing is a big problem for us because that means that sugar is comfortable in an environment that is toxic. It can even create toxicity for you. It's very acidic. And the very thing that may be causing us problems, they're using that to show them where the problem is because they will gravitate to the problem. That's a
Wow.
problem.
That's a huge problem. One that we don't know generally. I'm first, you told me about that before, and I was like, what? And yeah, and it's so much that we don't know. I think part of it is too because we're so consumed with the insanity out here, and we really need to. So since we're talking about um, grandmother wisdom, but also about spirit, because right now Brenda's not a grandmother, and she's a grandmother in terms of the extended family.
Mhm.
But yeah, so talking about spirit, can you each give me an example of what was your biggest insight or biggest moment when spirit led you down a path? Right now people are just scared to death, they're just in despair, they're looking at need to get off the damn TV and stop watching the news for one thing and get into spirit, because that's a poison in itself. um, but going to spirit, when was a time that you went that that you felt maybe despair or hopelessness or just fear, that when you went to spirit you and took the time to go in and be still and connect, that it helped you, and how did you do that?
Well,
In what way?
that happened probably within the last couple of months because there was like a mild depression there, sort of a malaise. I wasn't in the mood to pray or much, but I still spoke to spirit, and spirit would always guide me to acknowledge the sun, the nature, the elements, and how they're supporting me. But also spirit reminded me to be grateful. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you be grateful for three things. And I saw that I was actually struggling to be grateful for three things.
Mm.
However, as I did that, it's like there was more of a breakthrough. Then spirit guided me to utilize energetic
She
hygiene.
can't hear
It's
you.
like, you can't hear me?
Mm-mm.
Hello?
Wapajea can't hear you, she's having
Yeah.
trouble hearing.
Both of you, your voices, it got really low.
Oh, my mic is active. It's active.
Okay.
Okay, I'll speak louder. So, okay, gratitude was one, and another was I needed to clean my chakras every day. Clean the chakras, fill my energetic body with light, and then that's when I noticed I started kind of lifting out because apparently I was picking up a lot of energetic debris, which we all are because we're swimming in it. But that was the beginning of me beginning to open up more to spirit and come out of the heaviness and mild depression. So it was those three things: connecting with nature, the elements, being grateful, and cleaning my energetic centers.
Could you hear her better when I muted?
No,
Oh.
I heard you. I heard everybody well at first, and all of a sudden it just went down. Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay.
Loud and clear. Hmm.
You have earphones?
I don't. I'm in the
Okay.
house. I'm outside. It's
Okay.
okay. I'll just put my ear closer so I can hear you.
Okay.
Um. All right. To
Okay,
answer
but
your
I'm done.
question,
Hmm.
um, you know, I I always tell my son, "Oh no, we can't do that." And he says, "Why?" I said, "Because spirits say we can't do it. We got to go another way."
Hmm.
And he's like, "Woo!" But he has a situation where he had to go to Baltimore um, to court. Somebody was supposed to take him, and Spirit told me that that person shouldn't take him. And so I started looking for another way for him to go. And I ended up, you know, seeing if my daughter could take him, and she did. And when they got there, a lot of things went in a direction where they shouldn't have. And because she is like a little barracuda, they said, what? Let me put my mask on. And she went to the building and said, listen to me. blah this and blah that and blah, blah, blah. And the people were saying, well, she said, call my mother. So the people call me. I send them the documents over the phone. And she stands there and says, listen, this is what we have to do. And the people acquiesced to what she was asking them to do. If that brother of his or that friend of his had taken him, he was not going to be able to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to have a live wire up in there to direct the people to make it so that everything would go well for him and he could, come back down here. So those things happen a lot. Like Spirit will say, do this, go that way. And I'd be like,
Mhm,
okay,
mhm, mhm,
I don't
mhm,
know the reason. I don't know what the
mhm,
outcome is supposed to be. And I do not
mhm,
ask.
mhm.
I just turn left when it says turn left, turn right when it says turn right. And if people don't understand it, I do not care because I got one boss and the boss is. So yeah, because I went to Jamaica, not this last Christmas, December, but the one before that,
Mhm,
2018, and I
mhm.
stayed for 3 months during the winter because I can't stand being cold. And when I was in Jamaica, I heard a voice loud and clear say, "Go back to Virginia when you get back to America." I'm like, "What? I live in Baltimore now." I said, "Go back to Virginia." I live in Baltimore. I have sushi. I have acupuncture. I have Whole Foods. I don't want to go back down there. Go back to Virginia.
Mhm,
I get
mhm.
down here, girl, and a month later the corona breaks out. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, so just being able to hear instructions and obey without question, that gets you in the flow. That gets you to a place that they know you're gonna listen. So they'll tell you more and more outrageous stuff. They know you're gonna do it. And mommy will have you to tell people things, to show up at places, to just be her eyes and ears on the ground for her when you obey without question.
Hmm. Yeah, and that, that's a place that requires faith. A lot of people say they believe in whatever, however they call higher source. Yeah, I believe, and I, do my prayers and go to church and da 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 da. But when something challenging comes along, or that direction is given psychically, or your intuition, however you want to call it, and mommy's trying to guide you to do something that's out of your comfort zone, or you don't have a rhyme or
Mhm,
reason to do, that's when faith kicks in. When things get
mhm,
hit rock bottom, get the hardest they're ever going to be, and you move forward with it with all confidence that she's got this. I always tell people, I'm like, okay, so yeah, we're being challenged and things are rough and all of that, and they're watching earth changes happening and they feel like they've got something that they're supposed to be doing. Well, take care of yourself, because if you take care of yourself, we're the biggest problems on the planet. You cannot save the earth if you don't respect all parts of the earth. That means people, animals, insects. I'm having a challenge with ticks and mosquitoes. I will say that. I own up to mama. And I'm like, I know that you created these things. I can't for the life of me figure out why. But,
mhm,
I'm in if but it's a thing that we have to become very clear, especially in these times, about that we signed on to a very tough time. And we're not alone. We think whatever's going on with us, we don't have our babies in cages. We don't have their organs being mined. We don't have hunters in African countries, that are shooting children on reserves, and these people with their guns in their hands and their foot like they were standing on a lion or an elephant. To them, these children are just the same. These little black lives don't matter to them. They go to church, they do whatever they're doing, and they feel some sort of superiority and connection to God, and they praise. I don't know what kind of God they're praising, but one that dictates a lifestyle and a psychic ability to do things like that is totally against what the mother energy is. And interesting to me when I'm talking to people about spirit and about climate change and environmental justice and all of that. And I keep telling people over and over, I know they're tired of hearing me, if you can allow these children to be put in cages and you have not been there en masse like you did for the Women's March and all of that. And yes, I went down for that and connected with some of the Native relatives and we talked and, and then I watched all these people, they spent hundreds of, well, millions of dollars on air flight, on hotels and going to bars and having all this big celebration and good feeling, good times, whatever. There are people that have no homes. There are people that have no food, health care, all of these things that all that money could have been used wisely and more humanely. And yeah, okay. I just feel like our priorities are so screwed up. We created these things. People are, oh, the deer are in my garden. They're eating my food. And I said, yeah, well, you are in their turf and you're building houses nobody can even afford to live in or are going to live in.
Right.
And you're pushing them to an edge off the cliff where they have nowhere to go, but you want to blame them and say they're the problem. It's like when colonialism happens in Africa and Hawaii and, all Central South America, all these different places where these things come invasively in our neighborhoods and things. You want to blame the people that are there and say, well, they're the ones that are the problem because they're there trying to make a living. They're trying to raise their children. They're trying to have somewhere to be. But capitalism says they're in the way, so we have to get them out of here. Mommy didn't create this planet like that. She created it. She didn't make demarcation lines and say, okay, this is a country, that's a country. She put people in different places and she gave them their medicine. She gave them a spiritual connection to her. She gave them plant medicine, all of these things. Then other, that are there for the survival of those people, those animals, their environment. She made that. She also made it so that there's an abundance of everything that was needed. Now there isn't. Everybody's complaining. Oh, there's not enough drinkable water. The air is jacked up. There's, not enough food. There's not enough this and that. But there was. And why isn't there? Because the stewardship that people claim screwed this thing up with capitalism. That's basically the bottom line. This whole notion of ownership. When somebody says there's not enough food to eat, why? Because mommy put enough food for everybody. Right. She put enough water and air. And so we have to go back to that's what the spiritual balance is, and why it's so off balance is because everything is monetized, commoditized, everything is, and in that structure, things are, water's being poisoned, the air is being poisoned, the food is over harvested, even to where, Native people are saying, oh, we have, for us, tobacco, we have sage, we have cedar, we have sweetgrass, we have cannabis, things that were, in Central South America, the combinations of herbs that make ayahuasca, all those things that are medicine that were taught to the people that live in a specific area and they respect and know how to use are now fads. Tobacco became a fad. Now it's a poison, Now Native people are saying, because everybody, all the psychics, all the Ghostbusters, everybody's smudging, everybody wants sage, everybody's over harvesting now because it's now something to sell. And it's being sold at outrageous amounts of money. But the people that were gifted with that particular medicine are struggling now to try to preserve it because it has been monetized, and people that are not of that culture are using it, but they're using it out of context, I would say. And so we have to look at this too. I tell people all the time, they ask me, spiritually, well, where do I fit in? I said, I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. But my advice to you is stop going to everybody else's ancestors and trying to figure out what they gifted them. find your own. What are your roots? Where do your people come from? What is your heartbeat? What is your drum? What is your medicine? Go to your own source and rediscover that and invigorate that. And and respect other people's culture. You cannot take somebody else's culture and want to take all the beautiful and wonderful things and discard the people. It doesn't work
No.
like that. It comes through the blood. And I would like to say that that is one thing that people need to really sit on the earth and connect with. And get your kids outside, get them off them damn tablets and little kids, 3 years old, with phones and iPads and all this stuff. All that Wapaja, you can speak to that about electromagnetic, parts, and we have that in our body, and how those things just send the children, desensitize them, and send them out of whack.
Yeah, my grandchildren got here from California, from a different life, and I noticed that they were in a living room. Everybody was on their own device, and nobody was talking to each other. And so when their mother left them here with me, I told them, "Give me all the devices," and I put them in my room. And then I pulled out the drum and said, "Do you all remember this I taught you when you were small before you all left?" And he was like, "Oh, I think so." So then we began to sing together. And I said to them, "This right here is the compost bucket. Every night, somebody got to take it out, wash it out, bring it back. Then in the morning, we got to check everything to make sure it's watered. I got a fig tree in the back of the land. Go check Figgy, see how Figgy is doing." And I watched them be able to sit without their devices. And they're in the house right now because I don't have internet in the house, nor do I have a television. And so they're in there reading and painting and working on puzzles. I saw that with my own children. I had a TV in my house, but I didn't allow my children to look at it unless I was there, because I said to them, "The Saxons are going to try to brainwash you behind my back, and that's not going to work out well for nobody in here." Because Anglo-Saxon children slam the door on TV and tell their parents, "I hate you, get out of my room." And my response to that, "You ain't got no room in here, this is my house." Slam my door again, I'll take it off the hinges. So I didn't want Anglo-Saxon television children to get my kids in trouble. So I said, "Don't look at TV until I'm home." I come in the house and touch my television and it's warm. I tell my daughter, "Go get my sewing scissors." She brought the sewing scissors. I cut the plug off the TV. My children started hyperventilating. But then I noticed that they were arguing less. They were being more creative. They were doing things because they had plenty of things in the house to do. But every time I walked out the house to go to work, here they gonna pile up in front of the TV and try to cut it off before I get in the house. So I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that with my grandchildren, their devices make them selfish and make them bicker with each other. And without them, they find a way to enjoy each other's company. And I do believe that those devices are going to damage their brains in the long run. Even
Yeah.
me with my old brain.
Mhm.
If I look at television and look at my phone and look at a movie and then decide, "Oh, I think I want to watch something else," I'll get a headache. So that's my body telling me, "You better sit your old brain down somewhere." That's enough. That's enough. So that means that this electromagnetic energy coming from these devices is not compatible with us.
No,
And we
not at
need
all.
to use it sparingly. And we need
Yes.
to insist that our grandchildren do the same. We are helping them by not allowing their brain to go dead looking into their
Mhm.
phone, their tablet, their anything.
Mhm.
You know, I noticed that my older granddaughter, I would come in her room, she'd be in a room painting, but she'd have the uh, phone on. And when I come in the room, she closed it down. I said, "Honey, what you hiding from me?" What's on there? But you don't want me to see? Give me that phone. Give me. I can see everything going on in here. I can see all things. Nobody can hide nothing from me in here. Give me that. Yeah, and then I started sending Rabia some of her pictures. Her painting is beautiful.
It is.
But it started
Wow.
happening once we got rid of that phone.
Mm.
Hmm.
So our children don't know how creative they can become if they could just have a chance to be in their own thoughts. Her dad called the other day and he said to Nana, he said, Nana, so what's your inspiration for these paintings? She said, I can't really say I have inspiration. I just look at the colors and see who wants to be together. I was like,
Mm.
oh,
Yeah.
you sound like your Mimi. She said, and once I put the colors down, then I see, where they want to go, who's going to play. That's real art. Because
Mhm.
she said to me, I want to do a butterfly, but I don't want to do it the way butterflies always are. I want to make it a little messy. So I put some black paint down and left some open space and then dropped some pink and turquoise in the open space and then it ran into each other. She said, and it's messy and I love it.
Just like
She
life.
would not get there with that phone in her hand. She's
True.
getting there because she has nothing but her own ideas to follow.
Mhm.
And so that's what we
Mhm.
have to do as grandmothers. We have to insist that our grandchildren are saved from whatever this is that's trying to robot them and separate them from human interaction with each other. That's our job.
Mhm. And Brenda, let me ask you, because you're a world traveler, you and I have been on so many spiritual journeys together, from the mountains of North Carolina to Guatemala, to just, things, all these different spiritual journeys that we've had. And you've been on many without me. You've been to places in Africa and this and that. So, having been to all of these places, visited different spiritual centers, or, you know, just speak to us of how you see spirit with the women that you've met or observed in all of these places, Nicaragua, whatever. Um, what is the common thread, do you think?
The common thread of the women is our nature as the mother is we connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is not only understanding our connection to nature, but to each other and wanting the well-being of more of the all, more of the all. I think that's our power. And even now, as I watch and participate in forums where we are navigating through this time, we know that we have to do it together, that we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
We have to care about each other. We have to support each other. And with that, the children are supported. We are all supported. Mother Earth is supported. But with the women, there is a determination and a great focus to just wanting all to be whole and all to be well. This is what I notice about the women. It comes from our very core that we want wellness for all, what we
Mm-hmm.
want for all. And that's what I've learned from the women and continue to learn from the women, where even though we're all trying to figure this mess out, it's not just about us. It's like we're finding a way where we're collaborating and working on ways where we can all get through this intact and come out better. So that's been my observation of women, that we're
Mm-hmm.
very powerful, more powerful than we ever know, because when we have that focus and we have that determination with that mother fierceness, we make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You all may have heard of the 19 families in outside of Columbus, Georgia, where 19 African American families, they're buying over 90 something acres of land because people want to feel safe. They want their own communities. They want to band together because whatever's going on out here, it's not functioning and it's falling apart. Well, I wanted to find out what, how is this inspired? Because many of us think of those things. And it turns out that it was one African American sister, she was going for therapy. She was depressed and full of anxiety. Somewhere along that line of unpacking what was creating and contributing to all of her depression and anxiety and what she desired, all of the unpacking led to her giving birth to the idea somehow of let's create what we want to see. And along the way, others were attracted to her vision. But this is the power of women. This is the
Mm-hmm.
power of women.
Mm-hmm.
And it could come from a place of pain, doesn't matter what. But we give birth. We give birth to ideas and wellness and wholeness and connection. And this is what I've learned from women
Mm.
who are like Mother Earth in connection with Mother Earth.
Right.
Well, Vijay, you got something. Can I ask you something? Now, I said I was going to come up with 5 questions, but those that know me, I can talk endlessly and I'm trying to. So I would like to, because Wapajay is a singer and has a beautiful voice, and she, as her daughters do, and her daughter Maimuna Youssef is awesome. Um, and so is Wapajay and her mother, Mountain Eagle Woman. And um, so a lot of times when people, I know we did uh, part of one of the things that Wapajay and I did together was 40 days of prayer with Carol Henry and my daughter Aisa and Dima and Tamara and Alpha and mostly
And Penny.
and Penny, yeah, Gamble Williams. And we did 40 days of prayer, and it was very intense, and people were going through a lot of things, and we were praying for a lot of people and a lot of outcome. But the interesting thing was for me, as we were doing these prayers together, how spirit was moving us collectively as women to evolve together and to clarify some things for us. And one day, Rapajea made the comment, well, if I get up in the morning, I usually sing or tone because she can explain that to you better than I. Um, but we asked her, I said, well, can you just go on and sing for us since we're all on the call? And she did. The river was still. Everything held its breath and listened. The trees kind of bent in and listened. The fish started jumping after she finished. Everything just went, whoo, the birds, everything. We were all in joy. And then we started and said, Penny, get your rattle. She couldn't find, got mine. We started dancing. We started singing. That is a revelation of something that costs no money
Mhm.
that we can all do. When I sing, it rains. So I try, but croak, croak. But, but seriously, Wapajea, can you speak to that energetic
Oh yeah. Um.
and the breath?
Yeah. We are told. Um. Through the fact in scripture that there was blackness and well, actually, it's African scripture that the Saxons reintroduced to us. There was blackness and there was just a void, and within that void, sound manifested from mommy, and that sound created material things, physical things. So the vibration and sound, it's inside of our body. Every time we talk, the vibration is bouncing off of our internal organs, our veins, our sinew, our tissue, our muscles. And That's why, in the olden days, they talked about cursing.
Mm.
Cursing would be saying things against your own soul, saying things that would not feed your soul, saying things that would not bring life to a situation, but would debilitate that situation. Um, and so we have not been taught to be careful with sound, to be intentional with sound, even with our breath. The times I'm talking about when Spirit spoke to me and said, "Go back to the States, don't let him drive your son," it came when I was breathing. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is hum. I awaken my body with the sound of my voice. I sing to the world, I'm woke, I'm here. Because one day I won't wake up. One day I won't catch my first breath. One day my breath will lay silent and I will no longer function inside of my physical cage. I'll be someplace else. But while I'm in the physical form, I feel like it's my responsibility to pay attention to God inside of me. The only thing we cannot live without is our breath. Our eyes can get bust out. We can lose limbs. Half our brain can get knocked off. All kinds of things can happen to us. We can keep living, but not without our breath. Once your breath stops, your physical walk is over with. And so that should be taken very seriously. Like in the morning, I challenge myself to see how I can breathe. There are some people in Thailand called sea gypsies, and these sea gypsies live on boats and they hunt under the water with spears, and they can hold their breath for 5 minutes. And so I will challenge myself. I'll do things like and then I'll
Oh, you're good.
I'll
Ooh.
see how long can I hold my breath?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
what exercises can I do so that my breath becomes compatible with this journey? You know, I don't know what the future will hold. I don't know what circumstances we may end up in. Because right now, like I was, Rabia invited me to a harmonic convergence class. Spirit told me to tell them it's about to break up into many pieces. And we're going to gravitate toward our own tribe. Because there's too many ideologies here for this to hold itself together.
Yeah.
So we don't know under what circumstance we're going to have to be living.
Hmm.
And for me, our breath is the one thing that can save us. To be able to calm yourself, to be able to feed yourself, to be able to feed your organs and your brain. Because, they're saying that they found aluminum in elders who had Alzheimer's that could be coming from, eating canned food. It could be coming from something else. But the one thing I have learned is that your breath can move you through emotional as well as physical problems. So that's the one thing we have to learn to cultivate and to be able to use um, for our benefit. Sound is another thing. I was on a train one time in Baltimore, and it's on the subway train, and it was the elevated train above the ground, and there was a guy that was really just cussing and being super disrespectful to all of the, there was like, a lot of elder women on the train, and he was just carrying on. And a young girl said, "Why don't you stop doing that? You're so ignorant." So then he turns around and starts going for her. This is what I did. bust out singing until he shut up. And he was looking at me like, what the? And I'm looking at him like, honey, you got to calm that mess down. I don't know what's wrong with you, what you on, but you got to stop that. But I didn't tell him to stop. I just kept singing until he stopped. On the train.
Women's magic, I'll tell you.
Yeah, so I
Absolutely.
wanted, because I always do things to prove my point to myself because ideas come to me. And like in America, they'll say, well, what's your proof of it? I don't have no proof. It just came to me. And
Hmm.
Right.
so I will always look for opportunities to try it out to see what it actually does. If this came to me that it works, how do I know it works? Okay, I believe it because it came to me. And then soon
Hmm.
enough, an opportunity will show up and I will just get right to it. Because I don't mind looking crazy.
Hmm. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, so the one thing that we should concentrate on is, is whatever you can take from whatever the grandmother is saying to you, pay attention to your breath. Because when you get scared or anything, you'll hold your breath.
True.
And holding your breath is the one thing you don't want to do. You want to catch yourself holding your breath, and then you want to. You want to fall in love with your breath. You want to have your breath as a lover. You want to feel the companionship that your breath has to offer you. Huh? Benadryl? I don't have Benadryl. I don't own any Benadryl. What happened?
So I ate it's stinky, and I tried drinking water, but there's no time. Feel worse, so I tried eating
Grandmothers.
stinky because of it. And
What?
then I'm allergic to pineapple.
Okay,
So
almond milk.
Brenda,
Drink some
I'll
almond milk and
ask
see
you
what happens.
something while she okay?
Yo,
Because
she
I
told
wanted to ask
me I need
you all
Benadryl.
something.
And I ain't got no drugs in my house. I ain't got no
I
I
aspirin,
know.
no
wanted.
Tylenol, no Benadryl. I don't have that here. I told her, she
Okay.
said she ate some pineapple and now her tongue is burning.
Tell
And
her
because
to
I told my
flush it out with
grandchildren,
water.
huh?
Yeah.
She
Flush it
did,
out
but
with
she said the water
water.
made it worse. So I told her to drink some almond milk and see what happens.
Okay.
Because it's
That
kind
sounds
of it's
good.
it's not milk, cow milk, but it could be a little neutralizing.
Yeah. Sounds
Um,
good.
huh?
That sounds good. Sounds
Yeah. So
good.
I said that if you eat something and that thing makes you feel a way you weren't feeling before, that thing is not for you.
Right.
All right. You have to learn your body by experiencing the world with your body. I was telling Rabia before I started doing the blood type living regimen, I noticed that I could eat honeydew melon 2 pieces. The third piece made my tongue burn. I could eat a little bit of avocado, more than a little bit, it made my tongue burn. Pecans, I can eat a little bit, or more than a little bit, it made my tongue burn. Once I started looking at the food that my blood type is supposed to not eat, those things were at the top of the don't eat list.
Wow.
So as much as I
Interesting.
like them, that's not for me. Anyway, so I hope did that answer your question, Fabia, about the sound and the
Yes,
breath?
that it does. And also with the sound, because the universe, the whole language in the language as a word, um, is made up of tone and vibration. It's not what we're speaking or anybody else is speaking. It communicates through sound and vibration, just like all the birds and the animals and all, that don't have so-called language, but they communicate with each other through tone, vibration, sound, singing. The wind speaks that way, the water speaks that way. We need to go into a place where we put ourselves in harmony with nature so that we can learn
Harmony.
how that works. And
Yeah,
one of
because
the
when I'm
things,
building a fire outside and the fire is slow going, I will start singing and the fire will blaze up.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
all have that
Mm-hmm.
ability
Mm-hmm.
to affect nature
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
with our own sound, with our internal um, compatibility with nature.
Mm-hmm. That's
You
true.
know,
And yeah, Brenda, you said you wanted to ask us something?
Yes, I did to see what your observations are during this time, and it's related to women's voices. For myself and speaking to others, we are raising our voices in ways that is sort of unprecedented for us in terms of speaking truth to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to hear, see if you, I wanted to hear if you were witnessing this phenomena where mother's speaking through us now. You know, she's been speaking through us, but our voices are becoming, it's almost
Louder.
like we're not, it's almost like we're not having it enough.
that's
We're not
exactly what it's
having it.
like.
And it's like no time for bullshit right now, you know. And so that's been happening in my own life. I'm watching it happen with other people in their experiences, and I'm like, something is going on. It's rising up in us.
No, because
Yes,
Rabia and
mothers.
I, we lived through the '60s already, where we've seen many, many demonstrations, pop-up
Hmm.
revolutions,
Hmm.
protests about different things. The one thing I notice now is that during those times, they always called men to make us stop. They called James Brown to make us stop. They called Reverend Jackson to make us stop. They called all these different men to make us go back in the house and stop protesting. This time, women are out speaking publicly, saying to them, "We don't care if Target burns down. You want us to do better? You do better. You the colonizer. You the thief. You can't tell nobody about stealing. You the number one thief." Women
Right?
are saying to
Yes.
America,
Yes.
"You gonna do
Yes.
better or else."
Uh huh. Uh
Just like
Mm-hmm.
huh.
right now, they gave Breonna Taylor's family some, great amount of money, and the sister said, "Okay, restitution is fine, but when you going to arrest the people that murdered her? We're not
Hmm.
having it yet.
Exactly.
You
Uh
can't
huh.
pay
Mm-hmm.
Right.
us off. Arrest
Mm-hmm.
those murderers." And everywhere
Right.
you look, this is women saying this. They're not being bought. They're not being pacified. They got the
That's
belt
right.
out, and they're
That's
saying,
right.
"Keep on acting up and see if I don't whoop you out of your mind."
Oh yeah. You tell her, Mama, get
No,
that
that's the
switch
difference
out.
between this revolution. This is thoroughly woman led, and
Yes.
the mamas. Because this is what I said when George Floyd called his mother,
Yes,
when
Hmm.
in
that man
spirit.
was
Hmm.
murdering him, and he called
Hmm.
his
Hmm.
mother sicked us on America. And the burning started, and the telling America off about herself started. His mama, because his mother was a community activist, and when
Mm-hmm.
he
Oh.
called his mama said, "Oh, I'm getting ready to show you who the real Margaret Farmer is, huh? Or this what you gonna do?" And she sicked us on America. So yes, honey, this is a womb-led revolution, and it's not gonna stop until freedom comes.
That's right.
Amen.
A woman.
A
Yes.
woman. A woman.
You
Now,
know, because it's interesting too. I was thinking about that because we do talk a lot about wombs and womb healing and the how we how there's this fear that's been propagated of the womb because that's the power seat of women, and this whole thing about darkness and fearing the dark and be afraid of the dark, some spooky's gonna get you, or and the black goddesses and all of these things to be afraid. I was watching my Asian flicks, which I always do because there's so many awesome. I'd be writing down herbal recipes right and left, boy, let me tell you. Well, and this one's in Taiwan, in Taipei, and they have this city god festival, but who they carrying down the street? This black goddess
mhm,
who they pray to and go and give offerings to, this black goddess, asking for protection for the families and
mhm,
all that. And I'm like, yeah, and the black Madonnas and, you know, um, blackness is a fear that has been taught to children from inception. You can't be in a dark place because spooky because that's also where the womb space is. But out of that womb space births life, and out of that black holes in space births galaxies and star systems, and and there's a tremendous power that they don't want women to make that connection between those two things. And so it's being so women have started to go along with this whole thing of defiling their bodies, and their temple is a sacred place, which is their womb, but they defile, and it's open at any time for anybody. And people, I tell young girls all the time, you don't are your body is a sacred temple. That womb space of yours is a sacred place where somebody worthy, if you want to have somebody invited in there, they need to be worthy energetically, the way they treat you, the way they speak to you. And if it doesn't feel right to you, hey, hit the road, Jack, because if it's not about being jackhammered, it's not about being, oh, you do this to please me because, I'm the man. No, this is someplace that's so sacred that, if I invite you in, you better step the way I tell you and do that respectfully, gently, kindness, full of love. Love making is not hurting somebody. It's not, because we carry that energy in ourselves. Every time that you have intercourse with somebody, you carry that energy and how it's delivered for a long, long time, which men do not. And so we need to look at this and look at the way that we speak about ourselves, speak to other women, all this stuff about being a bitch, and it's hip to say that. No, it's not. You're not a female dog. You're a woman. You're a person. You are higher than that. And when we start returning to the whole thing of the divine feminine, which is a whole nother thing, but it needs to be called back. There's this fear that women have of saying, yeah, but Father God. And I said, yeah, but Father God and all of that. And that, no disrespect for the way that people, if for those that call it that way. However, if you can't see yourself as divine, if there's no representation of you in that higher source, how are you going to be who you're meant to be in partnership with that divine essence? If you can't see yourself as divine, anything goes. You can be treated anyway. All of these people that, we model this popular culture and all that denigrates women, and women are singing it just as loud, and little kids are singing it. You're playing in the cars for them, and they're learning all these songs and shaking it and doing all these things that are out of young girls' natures that sexualize them at even 3 years old. They're shaking it and doing all this and being you know we need to reverse the flow of all of that. Just because you take a word back and say, okay, if I say it, that empowers it in my direction. No, that's false thinking. It's false thinking that if you take something that is just not right and you say, okay, if I say it, it makes it right. No, you're just fooling yourself into believing that you continue to give that energetic more power by saying that you are, well, I'm taking that back, and now I can say it. Well, everybody else is saying it too. In popular culture, everybody says everything. But we have to look at that, and we have to look at putting our hands back in the earth. We have to look at sitting, putting our feet in the water. We need to be looking into the starry sky and talking to Grandmother Moon, and really just listening to the wind and watching nature and asking. When I came here to the Patuxent River to stay, one of the things that I noticed, I asked Mother when I'm doing my prayers and I'm sitting quietly, I'm like, okay, so one of the paths that I've been on is collecting medicine plants. I'm not an herbalist. I don't know jack about it. I'll call Wapaji and all my other friends and say, hey, what's this? What do I do with it? But Mother would send me, had a cold, and I have, so I was like, oh, I called a couple of my friends and said, oh, I wish I had some mullein. I haven't seen any around here. The very next morning, after I got up before dawn and said my prayers and off I went, I was like, and Mother said, go walk down the road. So I'm like, okay. So I walked down the road looking around. Where? She says, stop. I stop. I'm like, okay, where? She points me in a direction. My body shifted. I looked down. There's a mullein plant. Next day, there were six. Next day after that, it was just an abundance. I have learned
Mm-mm.
more about and been gifted with so many medicine plants that I've been harvesting and processing because we're going to need it. This COVID is another wake up call. Chemicalized medicine is not going to help us. We need to do what Mother does, and she provides us with all of this medicine, but we can't over harvest, we can't abuse it. And like they're doing with sage and all these other things, but she's showing us, and the growing cycle of plants has changed tremendously. That's the other thing. Be aware. We need to be more aware of how nature is evolving because we're part of that. We're not observers. We are part of it. And I notice how these different plants are growing. They're coming sooner than they used to
Yeah.
do. Their cycle is
Yeah.
off. The birds are like, what the
Mhm.
hell's going on? All of these
Mhm.
different animals are like kind of like off kilter because things are coming sooner than they're supposed to. They're leaving faster, but something new is coming constantly. Um, so, and that's a phenomena that I'm hearing about all over the world that, people are observing how things are no longer in the flow with these planetary shifts and all that. But the thing I want women to understand, and everybody really, I always say we didn't witness the Grand Canyon being carved, but yet and still there it is. But now internet and all this stuff gives us real time, supposedly. But what is time? That's a misconception as well. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, um, it's just we have everything fully loaded when we come onto this planet. We've signed on for whatever we've signed on for, but we always know. And if we go into our deepest part of ourselves, our spirit, our soul, will feed us with the information that we know. If we open ourselves up to the universe and we open ourselves up to the natural world as a part of it, not, as I said, overlords of it, or and just become one with the trees and not see ourselves as something different than that tree or more important. One of the things I was telling Rabajea was, um, my focus is to be in one with all nature, to have my vibration shift and change so that I am on a vibrational pattern as the rest of nature is. And so, therefore, and I've noticed that how that's progressing because just like I have so much medicine that I'm just being guided to just go pick this, we'll figure it out later, but just go get this. And I don't question, I just get up and go walk up the road and go get it. But one of the things that I noticed was, um, like the beavers in the river, how, at first if I was sitting on the dock and they'd come along and they'd like, you know, now they just come. They don't even, there's not a big deal about it, except this one male one that started to challenge me one day. And I told him, take his little hind parts and go because I was here first. So, it's my time on the dock. But there's a big blue heron that comes and feeds in the morning and the afternoon. And so he would squawk at me and stuff if I was out there. And I'd say, look, I'm out here doing my thing, doing my prayers. But how about this? When do you want to be on this dock? I will respect your right to be there and to fish. And I will. So I started watching when it would come, and I would not go out at that time. I would just watch from the window. And I noticed over a, a course of time that it would come, it would look around, it would go and spend an hour doing, and I noticed patience from that, how it maneuvers itself, how it will walk to different places. And over the course of an hour, like 20 minutes of this thing looking down in the river and patiently not moving until it could get this fish or whatever. But then at the end of all of this, it started to come and walk down the center of this deck and look up at the window and then squawk and then fly away. And it was
Oh,
like, okay, I'm done now. It's your time. Come on, you know. And so and so I was like, oh, okay, so this is how that worked. And another time, a big fat raccoon was walking along, and it almost got right to where I was. And before it looked up and saw me, and I looked at it and looked at me, and it was like, oh my God, there's a person there. It couldn't even feel me there until it got very close to me. I was on the phone with my sister, and she's like, you better be careful. I watched this documentary and they might attack you and this and that and the other. And it's like, never entered my mind. But it's how we need to walk on this earth. It's how we need to walk with each other in this vibration. And one thing I do want to mention about Wapajea's daughter, because she was in Hawaii at the time. Um, and she and I were on, and her daughter and I were on the phone, and she said, these kids are just bouncing off the wall. They're jumping around, screaming, carrying on, and all that. And she said, and I noticed that we had this storm and the electricity went out, and they stopped immediately and sat down and got quiet. And when the electricity came back on and she heard it buzzing through the house, they jumped back up and started carrying on again like they were crazy. And she said, I'm noticing that connection of what this energetic of electricity does to us, because we have all this electromagnetic um, stuff in us and all this water that we carry in our bodies that also, makes this vibration. But I thought, boy, that's really telling. So when you put all these devices in these poor little kids' hands, because they're the new babysitter is cell phones and iPads for toddlers and all this. But what you're doing is desensitizing them to nature. There are kids that are scared to death to go outside, that they've never touched a tree. They've never walked barefoot on the earth. They're just like, anything that happens, they're just freaked out. No, I don't want to go outside and play. No, I don't want to get dirty. No, I don't want to touch this. Boy, when we were young, where were we? We were dirt daubers ourselves. We were always out there barefoot in the
Outside,
dirt,
just
Yeah,
eating
we
getting
dirt.
were.
looking the
We were.
worst.
Yeah.
Yep. Hair
Yeah.
flying, clothes all
Yep.
messed up.
But we were in harmony and in sync with nature. And we had, at least for myself, I never had any disbelief, because yes, I see little people and fairies and things, and no, I'm not on drugs, but there are elementals, there are other things that coexist with us on this planet on a different vibrational field, just like spirits do. And it's, when I was growing up, I was always outside. I was always sitting out looking at the full moon, talking to it, talking to the butterflies and this and that, and had my own little clinic of repair. If something got hurt, and I would go get it and try to fix it. And I noticed that kids don't do that anymore. But the other thing is that I never disbelieve in anything. There was no small vibrational thought or energetic in my mind and in my spirit, even as a very young child growing, until I got much older, and other people's energies I let influence me. But I never disbelieved that anything was possible. You could have told me anything and I would have said, oh, that's true, because well, sure, there's unicorns, sure, there's this, sure, there's that, because we know that Mother creates so many things that we're not aware of. The ocean tells us that when they put these cameras down there and you see these fabulous entities that are living down there that we would normally not see, how much other things are hidden from this small sight that we have. But if we don't use that sight and we use this sight, we can see
Yes,
so much more.
Mhm.
that's true.
It's true. I wanted to share that for a period here in Florida, I was actually going through fear with all the flags waving and pickup trucks with flags. It's like walking outdoors, I would go into fight or flight seeing these symbols. Well, after about a couple of months or more, at some point, Spirit said, enough of this. Enough. It's time for you to start walking again. And
Mm-hmm.
and what I noticed is that it seems as though my nervous system had actually gotten upgraded, so I could walk, be very relaxed. I may walk along, see a pickup truck with one of the flags waving, no arousal, and it's just amazing how spirit works with us. Because I remember at one point I thought I was going to be a nervous wreck,
Mm-hmm. Yes, I
but I just
remember.
wanted to So I just wanted to put that out there that of all these numerous ways the spirit does work with us to move us from one place and one consciousness to the next. Because
That's
yes,
true.
I am. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And I remember some of the stories that Brenda's told me about. Where'd you go in the woods and these people were doing some sort of drumming or fire? No, they were doing fires and things. And it just seems like spirit's always guiding you to these random, in my, places might seem like, but very directional in terms of you experiencing so many things, and she'll say, "Oh, I'm going to Nicaragua." Somebody called me and said, "Hey, you want to go to Nicaragua?" I'm like, "Okay, what for?" I don't know, but when I get there, I'll find out. And you've always been open to these experiences, which I do want you to speak about that. But one thing that really cracked me up is I did a retreat in the mountains of Georgia, and Brenda called me. I don't remember how you heard about it. And she called me and she said, "Is there room for me? I'd like to go." And I said, "Well, I don't know. If you show up at Union Station where we're all born, if there's room, come on and come." And she said, her friend said, "I'm going with you. You just going to go off with somebody because she told you to come on over there and see if there's room in the car. And if there is, you can go."
And,
She said, "Yes."
because it was funny because you said meet us at midnight in the parking lot, in the parking lot of Union Station. And my friend was like, "What? You meeting some people at midnight in the parking lot and you don't know who they are and you riding with them?" He was like, "Oh no, I'm coming with you to see who these people are."
And you came
But,
and
well,
we
that
had an
openness,
awesome time.
oh, it
Mm-hmm.
was such a blessing, and I learned so much with you all, Rabia, so much. But I'll be honest, I've been open in ways that's been total blessings, and other ways that's been no, don't do that again. So the lesson to that is discernment, using discernment and intuition and stuff like that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a
Mm-hmm.
few adventures. Yeah, yeah.
You have, but then you've grown in so many ways over the years, and you've come into your medicine and in your spiritual practices and that discernment, um, and it's because you, I think, trusted and went to all of these different places where a lot of times you were uncomfortable and would like, what have I gotten myself into? But
Right,
nonetheless,
but
you
you feel
stepped up and you
yes,
came,
yes,
and
yes, and
it
learned a
was,
lot. And yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and taught a lot too, because we always teach as we learn. What are you eating,
Yes,
Wapaja? Mm-hmm.
and that's
Huh?
what Wapajia was saying. And this is what our sister
What you
Wapajia was saying,
say?
that importance of the importance of listening. You're listening to guidance and you're following the guidance. And that seems what those adventures were about, learning to
Mm-hmm.
listen and to follow. And even coming
Mm-hmm.
down here to Florida to be closer to my family, oh my gosh, this is a backward place. But I followed spirit, and for a while it was like, this has got to be a mistake. You have got to be kidding me. You've got to get me out of here. But then, but then it turned out to be a blessing because I was able to tremendously help a family member and possibly save his life. So I'm grateful
Mm-hmm.
for that. And I see that there are no accidents. But I'm back asking spirit again, like, okay, I took care of that now. Okay. When you going to get me out of here? And, and that remains to be seen. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did what you wanted me to do. I learned a lot, grew a lot. Now we have COVID and everybody's growing. Everybody.
Mm,
And
yes.
anyway, yeah. But it's about hearing, listening, hearing, and following because you
Mm-hmm.
trust. Just that simple, childlike trust that all is well. It's going to turn out fine.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. So
Yeah, and
I
that's no
haven't.
small thing.
Yes, and it's not always about traveling and being out of one's comfort zone. Even recently, many of us have had these conversations during these times about how do we protect ourselves as we see possible civil unrest unfolding. And so many of us had limitations in terms of what we would do to protect ourselves, like using firearms or whatever. And so I had to come to my own place where I'm comfortable with that. That's not my energy. However, I accept it as part of my growth. That sometimes you're going to be uncomfortable doing things, but it's necessary for you to do, to prepare. So I just take it as it's just part of a way to grow my faith. And I may
Mm-hmm.
never even need to, I may not need to use those things. However, if I have to, I will know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a walk of faith for me too, because that is not my area, my energy, period. But sister can shoot now. I can
Don't
shoot.
advertise that.
Okay. Okay.
I watched this YouTuber, this old lady, she was in her 80s, and some fool tried to bust in her house. She got him in a headlock and beat the crap out of him. She was like, and
Mhm.
she said, I work out. I was like, you rock, mama.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. That's right. So no, I'm not
Hmm.
trying to glorify that at all, but I know that was
No,
one
I
of the
know.
things that many of us were dealing with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I see you over there just a chewing. I have to say this, Wapajea is a fabulous cook. And when I see her munching, I'm like, damn, what's she eating? I want some. She can cook like nobody's business, I'll tell you. And there are so many things that we could talk about and how spirit guides us as women. And Wapajea, she has a son, Sequoia, who's Down syndrome, who's a master, spiritual master. He can just manifest all kinds of prayers and mantras and just, make all sorts of things happen. And um, but it was her faith and her listening to spirit's guidance that took a child that she can tell you, um, that journey. But also, um, we need to do another one about how women can. I keep telling her she's got to do a cookbook while she's singing and doing her cooking, and she cooks by spirit too. Just wherever she just looks around, I'm like, oh my god, and then she creates something yummy, yummy. Um, but just the way spirit guides your faith of she wasn't going to let this child just be a vegetable like they told her. And so one day when she finally gets her book out and the cookbook and the video cooking for Sequoia, and all of that good stuff, he's a master drummer, all sorts of things. But just touch briefly on that because I know we don't have a whole lot more time, and I'm trying to see what Ava in the house says.
I know, because I'm trying to get to the kitchen and start cooking. I'm
She's
hungry.
saying discernment is one of my favorite words. It is a skill that can be developed by listening to, following, and learning from intuition.
You're right about that,
Yeah, yeah,
Ava.
that's right. That's right. Yes.
And go back and check out her session she did earlier today, which is awesome because that's another thing. And what's more soul crushing and spirit crushing is when children are portrayed in a negative light or things that are black or she wrote a whole thing of fairy tales and pictures and all that for children to learn from. It's
Mhm.
awesome. So it's posted on the website for Africa. And that's another thing is we have to go. We could go on for days, but I do want you to touch on your journey with Sequoia quickly and how you followed spirit's guidance in that, because it's such an important story, but one that's pretty long, but still, what made you follow spirit?
Well, I guess it was a habit already that I learned from my mother, to tell you the truth. My mother was a deep spirit follower. And like when I had my first child, um, I had a C-section because the water was gone and I never went into labor. Then before I had my next child, 3 years later, I had a dream that I had to have a vaginal delivery. And all the doctors were like, no, no, no. And I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. I had a dream. I got to follow my dream. You got to stop bothering me. And they kept coming in and trying to convince me. I said, well, Mama, just take a little Demerol. No, thank you. I don't need that. I'm good. And I said
Talk
to my
louder.
baby, huh?
Speak a little louder. I can't hear you.
Oh. So anyway, I was in the hospital and they wanted me to have another C-section. I refused because I had a dream that I should have a vaginal delivery. And they kept coming to harass me, and I kept coming saying, "Get out of here. I had a dream." So I said to the baby in my stomach, "Listen, I need some help. They're trying to make a move on your mom." All of a sudden, I was thrown out of my body, and I could see my body from the ceiling, and I was in no pain whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, I was snatched back into my body in excruciating pain. And when they came into the room, she was on her way out. So there was no time to prep for C-section. They just had to run down the hall and let her come out. But I had spoken to her, help me. All right, they're trying to hijack this, and I can't let that happen. So when I was pregnant with Sequoia, I was almost 40. And they said to me, you don't have to keep the pregnancy because you're almost 40 and he could have Down syndrome. And I said, so what? We can't have babies. It's not like perfect. No, I'll be okay. And as it turns out, he did have Down syndrome. And the doctor said to me, nothing can be done. He's mentally retarded. He is going to have a trach cut in his throat because they can't expel mucus like other people. He's going to have chronic ear infections. He's going to have congenital heart disease. He's going to have a flat effect and have poor muscle tone. And I was like, you got any good news? No, we ain't got no good news. So I listened to what they said about his diet. They said that he can't expel mucus like other people. So to me, that meant don't give him no mucus forming food.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give him any flesh. Don't give him any sugar. Don't give him any carbs. And give him, like I started him out on a macrobiotic diet. Um, when he was 9 months old, he was not able to crawl or sit up or anything. And I had a dream. I prayed on it and had a dream. In the dream, I saw myself taking something from the bottle and massaging his legs and back. I didn't know what that was though. And then about, I don't know, 10 days later, I was walking down the street and I saw a sign that said aromatherapy. And in those days, nobody knew what aromatherapy was in America. They knew in Europe, but not here. This is 33 years ago. I went into the place and I said to them, "What are you doing here?" And they explained to me what aromatherapy is. I said, "I have a 9 month old baby that cannot hold himself up. He can't crawl. He can't do nothing. I need some help." They put something together for me and I began to massage his limbs. And before the end of the month, he could sit up.
Mm.
So I improved his muscle tone with the essential oils. That's why yesterday I was looking online and they were saying, no, essential oils are not what people think they are. And they're dangerous too. And you can get respiratory problem. You can get this and that. I'm like, okay, stop.
Right.
Because I got 33 years under my belt of using essential oil to assist with all manner of troubles he has had. And I keep listening to him. I keep listening to my dreams. And every step of the way, I don't know which way I'm supposed to go. I keep praying and listening and breathing into it. And then I'll put some concoction together, and lo and behold, he's breathing better. Lo and behold,
Mhm.
the gout is gone. Lo and
Mhm.
behold, he's sleeping all night. So, and I'm always excited every time it happens, like, oh my God, oh my God. And so he is my greatest teacher. I mean, when I see him in the morning, I say, Sani Bonani Sensei. It's like, I see you, Sensei. Because he's my teacher. You know, he's
Mhm.
my sensei. It's almost like he's using himself and keeps being sick with all kind of different random things to teach me.
Mhm.
There's no other way I would know about these things if it wasn't for him.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
you know, my
Mhm.
other children say, you know, he got the prince life. So my my daughter got sick one time. I started taking care of her. And she said, "Oh, now I got the Sequoia life. I'm getting Sequoia treatment."
Mhm.
So all of my children have said that at one time or another when they needed my help. Now I'm getting Sequoia treatment. So he's a privileged character. He
He
gets a big piece of
is.
chicken.
Mhm.
The last of everything has to be saved for him.
Mhm.
And I'm just so grateful that he came up in here, you know, and said, "Look here, honey, let me teach you a thing or two. Sit down.
Mhm.
Let me show you
Mhm.
something."
Mhm. That's right. And the fact that this child, this young man, is an awesome drummer, and he is a chanter. He is
Right,
a, oh my God, I've seen Sequoia in spirit sitting there with his robes on, all majestic, and his little hat, looking around like, mm-hmm. And it's just hilarious that he is, he drums. His sister, Mimuna, had when she does shows, sometimes she'll have him come on stage, and he just, okay, yeah, here I am. He
right,
is such an awesome being, this young
right,
man. But to think, if it was up to these doctors and stuff, they would have not just aborted him, but once he got here, they would have relegated him to an institution or somewhere. And how many of these children are out there that are discarded like that instead of taking the time to ask spirit's guidance on how to work with these kids, because they bring something on a higher spiritual level than we even know. Things that we just hear them humming and chanting and doing whatever, and people are like, oh, they're just making noise. No, they're in another frequency. I've
right.
watched him with that, and talked to Wapaja so many times about that. He's on a higher frequency and can manifest stuff. And you'd be like, what? How does Sequoia even? Yeah, because Sequoia might not be able to communicate the way she taught him to sign so he could communicate. All these things that they relegated him to this life of nothing, where he has mastered so many things. Um,
Yeah,
so,
because you know
you
when he
know,
was little, he wasn't able to talk. He was throwing dishes across the kitchen and screaming and howling and whatnot. So I told the school system to put him in school with non-verbal children, and they told me, no, no, we don't do that. And I said, well, I'm gonna tell you one thing. My son is throwing plates across the table, across the kitchen, and he's falling all out. So either you're going to put him in a school with children who are deaf, or I'm gonna sue everybody until I'm exhausted. So take your pick, because when I come back from the winter break, if you don't have a placement for him, I'm gonna go to town on y'all. So needless to say, before the winter break came, they called me and said, Miss Youssef, we got a placement. And he went into a hearing impaired program, even though he was able to, verbalize. I met somebody in Baltimore 3 years ago that said to me, "Are you Sequoia's mother?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I just want to say, I'm a teacher. I remember you. And because you forced the school system to put Sequoia in a hearing impaired program, now we routinely send Down syndrome children through the hearing impaired program because many of them are language delayed." He said, "So I just want to say thank you." I said, "Honey, thank you. Thank you all for agreeing with me before any trouble got started." Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I keep, even when he was in the hospital, whenever he has to go to the hospital, I move into the hospital. I bring my blender, my slow cooker, I bring my juicer. And I
Yes, ma'am.
micromanage the kitchen about, oh no, don't send that up here. He can't eat that. No, he can't eat that. No, he can't eat that. He can eat that. Yes, yes, yes.
She
And
does.
I'll
She
be in there
rolls
in
with
the
it.
room cooking in my slow cook and feeding my own son
Mm-hmm.
because the food in the hospital. I said, why do you all feed people so unhealthy in here? They said, well, because people are away from home and it's kind of comfort food, and that's crackhead logic right there. I can't understand. What are you talking about? People have open heart surgery and they giving people steak when they come out of surgery. So I had to micromanage everybody around him because they don't understand anything about the body. My acupuncture doctor said, how do you call yourself a doctor and you don't know nothing about the body?
Mm.
So he
Mm-hmm.
has taught me to be
Mm-hmm.
vigilant, to watch my dreams, to pay attention. Just like the day that fear led me to the aromatherapy, I was just walking somewhere else and I happened to see a sign that said aromatherapy. And I'm like, what is that? And went in there and they solved a myriad of my problems by teaching me to become an aromatherapist for him. So Corey, I let him stay with his father for a month, and when he came back, his skin was all messed up. I say to his father, "What are you washing him up with?" Tell him leave a 3,000. So now that meant I can't send him to his house unless I send soap, which made me start to make soap for him. And it just turns out now I got a soap business because of Sequoia.
Yep.
How
So,
old is Sequoia? How old is he now?
33.
Wow.
Yep,
yep,
How time
he's a
33.
grown
flies.
A man.
He is a
Yeah.
grown man.
Wow.
And
Yeah, he's
he'll tell you
grown.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he'll tell you that he's a grown man too in a heartbeat. And he's
Oh yeah.
another one, a stargazer. Oh my gosh. You know, there's so it's such a richness that from stories she tells me and what I've witnessed of her journey with Sequoia. That's why you got to write that book, because there's so many young men and women out there like him or similar to him that are just, their parents don't know what to do, or they're institutionalized, or they're just neglected, and they all came here as, sentient beings
Teachers.
that have something awesome to offer, but they don't get the chance to because people don't know what to do, or don't have the vision like you have, or the patience, or don't trust spirit enough to go and say, okay, he's here, we made this agreement, what do I do with him, you know? And I want to give a
Yeah,
shout
because
out because I saw
Sequoia knows his own medicine too. Like when
he
Sequoia's getting
does.
a fever, he'll say to me, Namaha. Namaha is 108 names of the Divine Mother. So I don't give Sequoia Tylenol. When he has a fever, I use my tuning fork on his ears, on the back of his spine, down his spine, and I let him hear the song. Um, you know, uh, um, is 108 names of the Divine Mother. That I put on headphones on him. He listens to that, and then I work with him with tuning fork and cold compresses. And within 30 minutes, I can bring his fever all the way down. So I don't never be, trying to think of the quick way to get the fever down. I don't never think, oh my God, he got a fever. Oh my God, no, honey, I got cold water in my bathroom. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to get that fever down.
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got aromatherapy in the cabinet. We're getting that fever down.
Yeah.
And
You
he
got
already
onions and
knows.
potatoes.
Yeah, I put potatoes in his socks. And then in
Mm-hmm.
the morning it turns black and it sucks out all the hotness out your body. Same thing with onions. You can use potatoes or onions, but onions stink. So if you don't have no
Mm-hmm.
potatoes, then slice some onions up, put them in a baby sock. It'll pull all
Mm-hmm.
that fever out in it, and the onions will be cooked in the morning. So this is the stuff I do for him, you know. And he knows his own stuff. Like he told me yesterday, he went like this, and he was telling me to put some colloidal silver in his mouth. He went just like that. I know he means spray some colloidal silver. I'm not feeling well.
Mhm, mhm,
So he watches what I'm doing. He leads me to what I'm doing. And I guess whenever I get all the teaching he wants me to have, he'll start talking and get up and walk on out of here and get himself a job and a wife.
And I want to also, while on that note, I want to say I saw a post or a thing from our beloved sister Penny Gamble Williams, who is the spiritual leader of the Chappaquiddick Band of the Wampanoag people and a tremendous artist and healer
Hey,
in her own
Penny.
right. Hey, Penny, babe, love you too.
Hi, Penny. One day I'll meet you.
You haven't met Penny.
I don't
Yes.
think so.
Well, when
I
we
don't think
do,
so.
we'll do another part of this too, and Penny will be on with us as well. Um, Gma, I guess she's going to get the hook and pull us off of here when it's time. I have no idea. We've been on
Well,
here
I
for
was
a
going to
while.
tell
We
you,
could go for
dear,
days.
I got to get
Hmm?
to the kitchen and cook.
Yes, we do,
So,
Rock Penny, and so do you. Okay, so Dima, can you come on for a moment and give us some instruction and release us so we can do our prayer? And we always begin and end with a prayer. So I would like to have us each do a little quick prayer.
okay.
So I'll start. Thank you, Mother, for this awesome time together, for all of the knowledge you impart to us, for the kindness that you have shown us, for breathing life into us, for the gratitude of the love and support that you constantly show us, for the protection of our families, our friends and family. I mean, our earth and all that dwell on her and in her. And we're so blessed that she is willing to host us, for Grandmother Moon, for looking down and showing us ways and guidance and opening up us up further, for all of creation, Mother, that you have created that we don't even know about, all that was, is, and will be. We are in gratitude and just reverence for all that you do for us at all times, every breath in and out. And with that, I say, Yakoki.
Yak, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mother, for this opening, for this sharing, for this joy, this love. Thank you for the opportunity to spend time with our daughters and sons and brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for the revolution. Thank you so much for the womb opening of this time that we're living in. Thank you so very much for a new heaven and a new earth that is being built at this very moment. Thank you so much for our galactic brothers and sisters that's just up there waiting for the come on and go ahead. Thank you so much for the abundance that you have given us and always will give us. Yakoki.
Yakoki. Brenda.
Thank you, beloved mother. You are so full of surprises. You are so delightful, and you sort of just reined me into this arrangement today, and I've had a wonderful time. I thank you so much with spending time with my sisters and brothers out here in the audience as well as here. Thank you for your love, your guidance, your protection, your divine providence, your revolution, evolution. Thank you for all. Thank you that we're all one. And thank you that each day people are awakening. Every day, every moment, a new soul awakens and is part of the evolution that's occurring. And so it is.
And so
Ashe.
it is.
So it is.
Yakoki. Dima, you have a prayer?
I can you hear me? I do. I give thanks to the knowledge that was shared here. I give thanks to the love that was shared in this circle and was sent out not just between those on the screen, but to everyone who's tuned in and to our family that's watching from around the world, from the continent, but from our extended diaspora, our family everywhere. Those who are watching it live and who will watch it later. I give thanks to the wisdom. I give thanks to the reminders, the many, many reminders you have shared with us, um, and the warnings of allowing fear to take over, for cautioning us from allowing doubt to take over. Thank you for just simply ringing that alarm for those of us who might slip into the chronic distraction of this world and maybe believe whatever narrative that's being played, that we are powerless. Thank you for the reminder that we are powerful, and thank you for the reminder of the power of women, and for the acknowledgement of this revolution, and this revolution being a woman revolution, and being a woman-led revolution. And if, for those of you who have maybe not tuned into the panel right before this, it ended on a note where one of the sisters, Saba, young Ethiopian warrior queen, saying or referencing something she said about her needing women role models, and that it's time for a women revolution, and that it's coming. And I told her it's here, and it's here because she's there, and it's here because you wonderful women are here to remind us and remind the younger women that are stepping up to this position as well, that we do have the power. I'm so very grateful.
And you and Alexandra for creating this vehicle for all of this to take place, for following your guidance and doing it, and being open to and putting in the work around it, and your belief that, you know, this is what you were called to do. And thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you. And with that,
Thank you.
I say,
Thank you, sister. Thank you, dear
got
sister.
so many, I've received so many messages. In fact, I have more right now coming through. These women can keep talking for the rest of the night. Let these women take over.
We're hungry.
To you, that there will be a part 2. I hope you are not just pulling our leg, and that you will be coming back with a follow-up discussion. And if you are free, especially if there is more of an emphasis on what Mother Nature has been giving us as far as medicine, we are having a panel tomorrow on growing gratitude and growing the healing gardens and the things that we take for granted, whether it is sage that is being over harvested. And I should say that there was a comment earlier as you were saying it, but I had stepped away. It said, say so, stop over harvesting and defiling the sacred. When you were talking about sage being over harvested, there's so much that this earth is giving us. There's so much that Mother Nature is giving us that we take for granted or we simply abuse. And so if you are free, this is an invitation. Please, please join us. I will send the links. There's so much to learn from you. There's so much to learn from your wisdom as grandmothers, as mothers, as aunties, as sisters, as women, as keepers of wisdom. I'm so very grateful to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dima.
Thank you.
Be blessed.
Namaste.
Love to everybody.
Thank you.
Love to everybody.
Stay tuned, and if you have more questions, write them in the comment, because I will make it my mission to bring them back here. This platform is going on 24/7 for the rest of the week. This is Africa Week 2020. Check the calendar. Until then, stay blessed, stay strong, and remember, we've got the power. Here to the revolution.
It will not be televised.